we're back with another episode of the Teeing Off Golf Podcast hosted by the Chicago Tribune. This is John Borneman with Matt Harness at Glenview Park Golf Club. We're fresh off of, 21 holes, Matt, and a presentation on the redesign here at Glenview Park.
Yeah, it's been a pretty great day. I mean, this facility had been shut down for about a year, and they brought in Rick Jacobson, golf design. They redid, I think, just about every hole. I mean, a lot of the improvements were, drainage, but they did, rebuilt greens, got new grass, rebuilt bunkers, moved some around. It's terrific. So, a very country club-like experience.
It's going to be a pretty local podcast today. I think the focus of is mostly going to be on Glenview Park. They're nice enough to have us out here, and it's a course we've played several times pre-redesign, and then now we've played it once post-redesign. So we'll talk about that a little bit and let you know what to expect if you come out here to Glenview for 18 holes. We have an interview taped with the lead architect, Rick Jacobson, who did Glenview Park, of course, but it has his fingerprints, as you'll hear, all over the Chicago area, all over the Illinois area, and now into Asia, China, Japan. His
some long fingers.
Yeah. Right. So we talked to him a little bit, and some good stuff from him. I thought some insightful stuff about what an architect is looking at when they first of all build a course, and also then when they come back in and try to clean things up or fix what has fallen into disrepair. And then I guess, we'll talk about the Western Am, which is coming up starting August 4th, Rich Harvest Farms and Sugar Grove. Some local players playing there and an elite 156-player field if you want to get out and try to see some high-level golf, the pros of tomorrow, that kind of thing. So a lot of stuff to get to in a brief amount of time here.
Yep. Well, let's go. Why don't we just start with, you must have enjoyed the golf course, a tidy 3 over 73.
That's 73, probably my best round of the year, I guess. Certainly score-wise, I haven't shot any lower than 73. We will say, I think Rick Jacobson mentioned this during his presentation. You could not design a course like this right now because it sits on 110 acres. I think he said in the just the standards for how they build holes now. I don't think you could do it on 110 acres, build 18 holes. It's too small. It's very tight. You can whip around this course really fast if no one's in front of you. But we played it at, probably just a hair over 6,200 yards today, which is great for me because that makes the most tees, an iron and a wedge.
In the tight quarters, seem to benefit your game because when you hit it sideways, you're in another hole fairway versus woods.
I've said many times, my game, I excel on courses where if you hit it really, really bad, you're good. I mean, I hit at least 2 shots today from holes that were 2 holes over.
Yeah, right. And I hit it pretty much down the middle all day, and I shot 75.
Oh, that's true. I mean, you had a great round in your own. Not quite good enough to beat me, but it was solid.
I didn't make any birdies. You made 3 birdies?
3 birdies, yeah. And one of them after about a 50-yard snap hook, and I had to punch through the trees on a par 5. Could have made eagle, but you never want to run your eagle putt all the way to the hole. You always want to leave it 3 or 4 feet short, like I did.
Yeah, but as you said, I think the course is in just terrific shape, and it's being so new from this redesign, it's very playable. They opened it July 24th, so it hasn't even been open a week yet. And the greens are great. They say they're not cutting them down just yet, in hopes they don't want to kill them this early in the process. But they rolled smoothly and true.
This is a course that you and I have some affinity for just because of its playability and how close it is to the city. So we liked it before the redesign, and they've undoubtedly improved it.
In the clubhouse, it's a country club style clubhouse. I don't know if you've been in the bathrooms, but they have all the.
I heard rumors of a shower.
They have a shower, and
which you could use.
Yeah, I could use a shower. I'm pretty stinky at the moment, but people that live in Glenview should be very proud of this facility. I mean, I was saying earlier that if I lived here next summer, I would buy a season pass in a second.
The key to me is always the greens. I mean, at any public course that we play, I mean, distance, fine. What the aesthetics, fine. If the greens roll true and are pretty quick, I mean, that's what I look for. And I mean, granted, yes, we are probably within the first 50 people to be out here this year. But the greens were rolling really nice today. So yes, I would get out here as soon as possible and try to experience that.
And it's really affordable too. For a resident, Monday through Friday in the morning, $36 without a cart, $18 more with a cart. Non-residents only another $4, $40. Then it gets the price decreases after the morning, which I assume maybe ends at $11.59. Twilight rate, you can get out here for $28. That's a steal. So yeah, I mean, thoroughly impressed with what they did here, not just with the golf course, but with the clubhouse. And they said it's a community improvement as well because they've helped the neighboring areas with their storm drainage.
And you talked about, I mean, it needed some work in terms of drainage and just basically updating its wiring. Being able to get the water off the golf course.
What they say, they put 7 miles of piping underneath the golf course.
I mean, and because if it rained out here, forget about it. You're done.
It just adds a couple extra water hazards.
Yeah. I mean, the other big difference you're going to notice is the bunkers. I mean, they redid a lot of bunkers. I think they added bunkers, but they reduced the overall square footage of bunkers. They made them smaller, a little bit more easy to manage. They redid the sand, put some contouring in so that even if they take a little bit of water, you're not going to get that crusted over mud that you see at a lot of public courses. Now we saw it on a pretty dry day, but they certainly look better. We'll try to have some photos up on the website to illustrate that. Certainly the sites and the way the bunkers sat today were an improvement.
And the other two golf-related improvements they made, they said they stretched some greens out, they softened some of the undulations without taking away more of the character, but that you're adding pin placements. They also took some of these just really flat fairways, added some contours to them, and I loved, and I say this during our discussion with Rick, but I loved his line where he said, it's very difficult to make a golf course look hard but play easier, which I think it does. I mean, some of the tee shots might look pretty intimidating because of where the horizon, where these bunkers sit, because they push some up, and it looks as though it's reachable, it's in play, and it gives you some pause off the tee. But if you hit a good shot, you're going to be okay. But it's that sort of psychological warfare that architects always seem to play with the golfers. But I mean, I don't know that I can say enough. I mean, come on out and play.
And you mentioned the greens. One thing you'd notice right off the bat, the first green, it used to have what was essentially a 45-degree angle to it. If you were above the hole, it's a short par 4, basically drivable 302 yards or something from the tips, and that's as far back as you can push it. But the green was about a 45-degree angle. If you were above it, forget about birdie, forget about par. You're making bogey if you're lucky, which is kind of stupid. I mean, but now that is gone. I mean, it's not it's not a flat green anymore. But they've graded it out at least. Do you want to be above the hole there? No. Can you recover if you are? Well, yes.
The terminology used was we got it to USGA specifications,
right.
Which meant that you probably could have gotten, you probably could go ahead and not count that hole if it's not up to the USGA standards.
Well, and the USGA had it graded at a 126 slope before the redesign. They redesigned it so it goes up to 128, so it'll probably make it a little bit more difficult. Though it sounded like from his presentation, Rick Jacobson said he thought it was more playable. Maybe they improved the greens, improved the bunkers, and those, naturally maybe you save a couple strokes because you're not getting screwed over out of a bad lie or something like that. But I guess probably enough of our amateur analysis. We did talk to Rick, so we could probably kick that interview to him. Rick Jacobson of Jacobson Golf Course Design, right from Glenview. He redesigned, his firm redesigned Glenview, or not, North Shore Country Club in Glenview.
That's probably one of the more notable. They did an 18-hole renovation at Sunset Ridge Country Club, which is a Northfield Oak Park Country Club, which of course in Oak Park. A couple of Sportsman's Country Club in Northbrook. That's a public course.
I think I saw Bobolink in Highland Park there.
Yeah, current projects includes this Valley Low Club in Glenview, Winnetka Golf Club. Of course, in Winnetka, that's a public course. Cantini. I mean, he's like, as you said earlier. I mean, this guy is all over the Chicago area. He said, most of his projects are renovations at this point, and that's just maybe sort of a symptomatic of just the golf industry. Not many people are building new golf courses; they're just rather improving the ones existing, existing ones. But I mean, he's a name. If you know anything about golf course architects in the Chicago area, he's certainly one of them.
Obviously, we do.
He's one of the first names that comes to mind. He's sort of like if the Reese Jones, they always bring him in to redesign a course for a U.S. Open. Rick Jacobson might be that guy for the Chicago area.
Yeah. So here is Rick Jacobson. John and Matt here with Rick Jacobson of Jacobson Golf Course Design, the lead architect on the recently completed redesign of Glenview Park Golf Club in Glenview. Rick, why don't you start by telling us just a little bit about the project that you guys finished up here?
Yeah, it was a tremendous project, very comprehensive in nature. It involved not only the renovation to the golf course and enhancements to the golf course, but a stormwater management component was integrated into the comprehensive project. So it was a very complex project to execute, but I think we're all very happy with the finished results, and I'm very excited about the golfers now having an opportunity to come out and enjoy the fruits of the labor of the project team.
How long did this take you?
The execution, the construction started last year in the summer, finished late fall, a few touch-ups early spring, and now the golf course just opened last Friday. So it was about a year in the construction phase and a couple years in planning and design and coordination with the engineers, the village, park district.
Well, you gave us a little brief presentation earlier today, and to me, the most interesting thing about this is kind of a pet project for you, or it holds a special place in your heart as the golf course that you grew up playing.
Yeah, it was 47 years ago that I first stepped foot on this property. I was a 10-year-old, just learning the game, and I bought a $30 token to play all summer long out here, which I'm sure is...
have the rates gone up?
Yes, just a little bit. But, boy, what a lot of memories. We would throw our clubs over our back and ride our bikes over and play all day long. And it was a lot of memories as we went through the golf course and planning the renovation project and spending time again out here 47 years later.
You did a lot of work on the course, but generally, aesthetically, it's I want to say that the holes, at least, are pretty similar to what it's always been. Like you guys changed some of the grading, a lot of the bunkering, some of the greens, but the course still looks very much the same as the course you grew up on?
Yes, the routing of the golf holes remained intact, but as you mentioned, the character is going to be different for the golfers that are coming back out again and playing, from the fact that there are subtle undulations throughout the golf course on the fairways so that they drain. There are landforms that were created from the excavation of the implementation of the stormwater management project. So what was a flat golf course now is a gently flowing parkland golf course. So it has a really nice feel to it, and the golfers are going to have a great time and enjoy the aesthetics of the course.
So I grew up playing a course called Blackberry Oaks in Bristol, Illinois, and I played there all the time when I grew up. Now, if I was to be hired to do a renovation of that course, there's a pond just off the third tee, par 4, that I would fill in and I would laugh while I was doing it. Were there any elements of this course that coming back you were like, that tree is dead, I'm getting that tree?
That's funny that you mentioned it, because there were some, like the first hole had a ridge line about 150 yards off the tee, and a good tee shot went past that ridge line that was in the fairway. Well, now after reviewing the golf course in preparation for the master plan, that ridge line was trapping surface water flow, so it was creating a playability issue, and it was killing turf when the water wouldn't hold in that area. So we had to carve out that ridge line. So, I mean, it's memories like that as you go through the golf course. The seventh hole on the right-hand side was always a big stand of poplar trees and willow trees that sat down in a low area that was always a quagmire. And when you'd hit your ball in there, and it would plug and you'd lose it. We didn't fill that in. We actually excavated it into a lake. So now you're either in or you're out.
Okay, well, at least there's some resolution.
Yeah. So, and it's funny when I thought back to when I was 10 years old playing this golf course. There was a bunker in front of the 17th green, which is a short par 3, and the bunkers fronting number 18 green. Those bunkers felt like they were cavernous, like they were 20 feet deep. But after coming out now, after a number of years, they're not quite as severe as I envisioned that they were as a 10-year-old. But it's amazing how your perception changes. But in addition to that, you think about trees that were planted 47 years ago and what they look like today. So that the golf course has a different character to it. It's a well-defined parkland golf course, and each golf hole corridor is well-defined.
I love your line earlier today that it's difficult to make a golf course look hard but play easier. And I think that sometimes gets lost. Architects nowadays, they just want to make a golf course longer and firmer and harder. Tell me a little bit more about that. What are some instances where it might look harder off the tee but really is more favorable for playability?
Well, some of the bunkering is set up on tee shots further off the tee than your average golfer can reach. So only your lower handicap golfers are going to be able to reach that hazard. So it will provide a challenge for them, yet it will be more playable for the average golfers. And the people playing from the forward tee or higher handicap or golfers won't be able to reach that bunker. So it provides a visual framing of the golf hole off the tee or a target for your tee shot, but it's not a hazard to those golfers. So that's
which hole has that characteristic?
You'll see, at hole number 7 that we mentioned, we put the lake in. There's a bunker long left off your tee shot. And then there are several bunkers throughout the golf course that do that. But obviously you have to have balance, so you have to have bunkers that come into play on your tee shots also. And then when you get up to the greens, a lot of the bunkers were set like 15 feet off the green. And what's one of the toughest bunker shots is that hit it out of the bunker, carry it, 20 feet just to get to the green and then have it stop. So we were able to pull the bunkers tighter to the green or expand the green out towards the bunker. So you have a much more playable bunker recovery shot if you should hit the hazard.
Bigger green sounds good to me.
Yeah, I mean, these were pretty small targets out here, but when you have a golf course that stretches out to 6,200 yards, par 70, your challenges in the smaller targets of the greens and some of the accuracy of the approach shots and kind of balancing the grip it and rip it on some holes with the finesse type shots on other holes.
It kind of sounds like when you're designing a course, you're almost designing 2 or 3 courses. You're designing the course that the 5 and under handicaps will play. The guys from 5 to 15 and the guys above 15. I mean, those separate goals for each one of those courses.
Absolutely, and when you're designing in the public marketplace, you have to reach out to a wide spectrum of golfers, and that's why you have to have that proper balance on the golf course so that you can, accommodate the juniors and seniors, the ladies. It's funny. My dad played out here back in the late 1950s. I played as a 10-year-old, and my son, one of my boys, played out here in the IJGA event. So we've had 3 generations playing out here at all different ages, and in our design philosophy, we try to accommodate all those different demographic type age.
I mean, your fingerprints are all over the Chicago area, and one of the courses that you've done a lot of work on or work with is the North Shore Country Club, and I think you told me you were a caddy there when you were growing up. But what's the difference between, or is there any difference between renovating a course for the public or renovating for the private? Is it things? Is it design elements? Is it just the amount of money you have to spend? Or are people more hands-on in the private club?
Yeah, it's the process is a little bit different, but the when you get right down to the implementation and the execution of a master plan, it's pretty much the same. When you're dealing with a public entity, you've got different individuals and boards that you have to present to, the same way that you've got boards and greens committees within the private sector. There's different funding mechanisms involved in each project that will impact your budget and the things that you do during construction with the materials you use, the techniques you use. But as an architect, in the end, what you do is you sit down, whether it's a private club or a public entity, you define your goals and objectives, and you keep focused on those throughout the process, and you get the best product possible as an end to your project that will serve those goals and objectives that were set forth at the beginning of the project.
Tell us a little bit about some of the other stuff you got in the works, some other projects you're working on or finish up around the area here.
Yeah, we're kind of working on a situation where we've got projects spread out throughout the Midwest, including the Chicago market. We've done a lot of work in the past over in Asia, primarily China, which has slowed dramatically. Still have one project under construction, a new 18-hole course. All of the work here in the U.S. is renovation work. We've been working a long time over at North Shore, Glen Oak Country Club. We've done work out at Indian Lakes and Sunset Ridge and many of the tremendous golf courses. There's a tremendous golf heritage here in Chicago, and a lot of people don't realize the density of the golf course facilities here in the metropolitan Chicago area, and we've been fortunate to be involved with many of the great facilities.
So I knew you guys were doing some work over in Asia. What are the golf courses, how do the golf courses there, what you're building there, compare to what you would expect to see from a typical, we call this Parkland golf course here in Glenview? I mean, what is the landscape, what's the landscape like in comparison, and what do the courses look like?
Well, it's funny because it's very different, yet it's very much the same. It's a extremely large country with a variety of terrain. We've done a course out in the desert, in mountainous situations. We're doing one now in a landfill. So it's all different types of terrain and situations, very much like you might experience here in the U.S. with the different geographic regions. The one big difference is the implementation, and we use a lot more mechanized equipment here and less labor. They use a lot more labor. For instance, I stepped up on one tee one day on a course that we were building and was amazed at the number of people working on a half of one hole. So I stopped and I counted them, and there were 60-some odd people working on one golf hole at a time. And in the U.S., you might have that many people on an entire golf course project.
Wow.
So it's kind of a unique experience, but again, the terrain is very diverse and very much the same as the U.S.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but what are a few of your favorite courses that you've worked on?
That's kind of like asking. I got three boys.
Choose between your kids. I know.
Who's my favorite son? There are renovation projects that you came out with very favorable results. There are new construction projects where some sites are horrendous that were set forth with the charge of creating a golf course on, and some are beautiful where you're trying to preserve as much as possible. It varies so much from new projects to renovation projects.
So Matt's going to say North Shore.
He
loves that course.
Just having a tournament, professional tournament there. I mean, we've done it all. We did it all 3 years, and just hearing the reception received. I mean, clearly that's one that got a lot of attention.
Yeah,
a lot of positive attention.
Yeah. So, I did caddy out there as a youngster, and I kind of a similar experience here, being able to go back and being involved with that club for like 20 years. When I watch that tournament and see it on television, a lot of memories come back. And where I was standing caddying for groups, but to see it on television exposed to a national audience it was really special, and it was a really cool experience to see that. And Dan Donnelly and his crew out there do an amazing job at maintaining that golf course. And then, so we're very, very proud of that project from a renovation standpoint. And then you look at the Glenview National Line, which is now the Prairie Club. That was a site you can't get any worse. It was a flat runway and an airplane hangar. And now it's a golf course, and it's very well received from junior golfers and senior golfers and beginner golfers. So it's an entry-level golf course, but we're very proud of that one also, from what it was and what it is today. So it's a tough question to ask.
I get it.
Well, I know that this just opened July 24th, so I imagine you're going to get. It looks terrific. We can't wait to play it. So I imagine the accolades will start flowing in from this project too. So.
Yeah, it was funny. We made a presentation last week to an engineering, a statewide engineering organization. And one of the people out in the crowd during the Q&A said, you guys better be submitting this for awards, because it's going to accumulate plenty. But, it's not about the awards. It's about the golfers that are out here and enjoying what was produced. And it was a tremendous team effort that went into this, because it was, as I mentioned earlier, very complex with the engineering and the integration of the golf course design, and, to come up with a finished product that touches on all the goals and objectives of the village and the park district, and then to accommodate all levels of golfers. I mean, that's you've accomplished what you've set out to do when you have happy golfers and are coming back time and again to play the golf course. Yeah.
Well, the rest of the writers here in the room are getting pretty loud, so I think we're going to go and grab some food, maybe go play some golf. But Rick, thanks a lot for stopping by and talking to us.
Thank you very much. Enjoy yourself out there today.
Thank you. Thanks again to Rick Jacobson for taking the time to stop with us, and of course to Glenview Park Golf Club for inviting us out. They did great job with the redesign. Course looks great.
Ron Cassidy, thanks to Ron Cassidy, the director of golf. We'll get his name at the very end, but the executive director of the Glenview Park District was here as well. Sorry about that. Anyway.
Man, I can't remember, but we'll get it. Anyway, thanks to everybody. That was a fun day. Now I think we're going to shift gears and go to the Western Am before we have any more dead air trying to think up names. That'll be starting on Tuesday, August 4th at Rich Harvest Farms. Do you have the information?
Michael McCarty.
Michael McCarty.
The executive director of the Glenview Park District.
There we go. So, now, Western Am. Rich Harvest Farms, August 4th through 9th. It'll be it's a good field. 156 players, run by the Western Golf Association. Pretty high-level golf being played.
And I mean, I say it every time. I think it's the best amateur golf tournament in the world.
A grueling event. The winner will have survived 4 rounds of stroke play, and 4 matches in match play, right? It's
Yes.
36 holes, cut, 36 more holes, and then top 16 cut to match play, and then you play match play from there. So I mean, the top, the last 2 guys will have played that course 8 times.
Yeah.
Maybe not every hole if they close out their matches early, but they'll have played the majority of the course 8 times in the span of 5 days. Is it 4 to 9?
Yeah.
That's a lot of golf.
Right, and let me just go ahead and say a little bit about the field. 5 of the world's 6 top-ranked amateurs are in it, including defending champion Bo Hostler, who's back, 2013 champion Jordan Niebrugge, who's from Wisconsin or Milwaukee suburb.
Mequon, and he plays at Oklahoma State, I believe.
But he just played in a tournament.
The British Open, you may have heard of, and he was the low amateur.
I have heard of it. That's what it was.
That little startup tournament over there they play in Europe, whatever that is.
What was the golf course's name? I mean, it's someplace fairly famous.
It's like Andrew's place or something like that. Anyway.
Yeah, so he was the low am there. So he is, at the Western Amateur NCAA Division I champion, a favorite of yours, Bryson DeChambeau. We all look forward
favorite
to
of everyone's
what he might be wearing. The SEC Player of the Year, Hunter Stewart. I mean, he goes on and on. I mean,
in the local guys, Nick Hardy and Doug Gim.
Yeah, certainly don't want to. But I was going to mention them in this list. Okay. 13 of the players in the field have played in at least one major championship this year. That includes, Nick Hardy, who played at the U.S. Open. Hostler, Denny McCarthy, I'm not familiar with. Jack McGuire. Those guys all made the cut at the U.S. Open.
Wow.
So this is, the U.S. Amateur is a great field, the British Amateur great field, but as our friend Barry Cronin said, there's 312 players in each of those tournaments. So, you are going to get some very good players, but that's at the top, the bottom. Half are guys that qualify, and good for them.
Barry used the term chaff.
He did. I wasn't going to say that, but the Western Amateur is an invite only, so you have to be a good player. And that's what it gives U.S. Amateur, I guess, its character is it's open to theoretically anybody that can get a handicap to qualify. But this tournament, we wouldn't be able to play it.
No, certainly not. Well, I did shoot 73 today. That's not that bad. Do you think they'll play Rich Harvest Farms so much farther than 6,200 yards?
Yeah, I know. So John has the story this week about Doug Gim, the Arlington Heights native.
Went to Buffalo Grove.
You listed the yardage at 7,700, which I'm pretty sure they're not playing it.
I know they won't play it from that far, but they could push it back to 77 if they wanted to.
Which for those guys is too far.
Right. But there's a certain feeling out there. I think that hard is good. Not maybe not by the Western Golf Association necessarily, who sets the tournament up. But I think they do take a little pride over Rich Harvest Farms over how tough the course can play. But I think that I think they'll probably play it closer to 7,200 yards. Don't you think?
That would be my guess. Yes. It has. I don't know how much we've talked about it since the sort of disastrous day of when we went out there and played.
It was a gorgeous day. We're just terrible
with Nick Hardy. But my issue is the yardage plays long because I think almost every shot to the green you have to carry.
Right.
So it just makes that a true 7,200 or 7,700 or however far it is.
Whatever they list it plays that or longer because there's no bouncing it up to the greens there. It's target golf. You could play here to there and you fly it the whole way.
And we'll see if Doug Gim or Nick Hardy can break through and win this big one. Of course, Doug was the medalist last year, and then Nick made it to the semifinals of losing to Bo Hostler.
Bo Hostler
the eventual champion.
Doug Gim out, then knocked Nick Hardy out.
He's not a favorite of the Chicago area golfers.
No, but he's extremely talented, and you saw, this is something that Doug was stressing to me when we talked. The fact that it's 2 separate tournaments. You have that stroke play event, and you want to play as well as you can there. But clearly, winning that or being in the top 2 or whatever is not necessarily an indicator of match play success. Doug wins Doug shoots 63 during stroke play, ends up winning medalist honors. Meanwhile, after one day, if I remember correctly, I mean, it was sort of touch and go as to where Hostler would even, I don't know if he was in danger of missing the first cut, but he certainly was in danger of not being in that top 16. But he sort of peaks a little bit later, starts playing really well and making all kinds of putts in match play, and next thing you know, he's the champion. And Gim said that the player who can sort of negotiate those two mindsets, that stroke play where every shot matters and that match play where you're taking risks, you're playing against your opponent, you're bouncing back quickly because you've only lost one hole. He said the player who can make that switch the quickest and navigate that the best is probably going to be the guy who wins.
Yeah, I mean, and it's two totally different mindsets because you can, I mean, when you're playing in match play, I mean, it doesn't matter this is the format we generally play. So it doesn't matter if you make a 9 and lose or a 5 and lose. That hole is over with, and you can move on. You sort of start a new slate every single hole. Whereas in stroke play, if you make that 9, you're spending the rest of the day trying to make that score up. So yeah, I mean, for the guy, but I certainly think you have to think about you want to play stroke play well because you have to do that to even get into the match play.
I mean, to be in the top 16 out of 156 guys takes some doing.
For sure. I mean, that's... Yeah, I mean, I guess Doug's maybe thinking, if we get inside his mind, it's like, all I care about right now is making the first cut. And then after that, make the second cut.
Right. And
then we'll think about match play. But yeah, I mean, that's what makes this a very challenging tournament. And I've always said the U.S. Amateur... I mean, with 312 players, I don't know how much stroke play you can play, but 36 holes doesn't seem enough to chop it down then to get to match play, which, luck does come into play because you could shoot. We saw it on the professional side where Jordan Spieth, I think, shot like a 64, 65, something, and he ends up losing.
Right.
And
now, you did say, I mean, but you do play that USAM over 2 courses.
Right.
It's like 312 over 2 courses. This, that's 156 on each. If you, cut it at some point. But anyway, I talked to Doug Gim for Media Day. He played out at Rich Harvest Farms, and I tried to ask him afterwards in our conversation a couple days ago, what kind of player he thought would be successful at Rich Harvest Farms, whether it was a bomber's golf course or a guy who's really got a great short game. And he said it's going to be a guy who can do a little bit of everything. I mean, all those kids hit it so far, but he said the crucial thing at Rich Harvest Farms, you got to be able to get and play off the tee box. You have to be in the fairway. If you're in the rough, you don't have much of a chance to do anything. I mean, because they're long holes, they're going to probably have the rough grown up a little bit. You got to fly the ball onto the greens. You can't run anything
there's enough
up.
Trees.
Yeah, it's trouble. And he said it's difficult because you know where you have to hit it, but the sight lines just make you uncomfortable. What you're looking at, you know where you need to go, but it just makes you uneasy as you stand there on the tee box and you look at bunkers and you look at fescue grass and you maybe look at a pond down there and it's not great in that sense. And he said that's what he mostly worked on at Western Amateur Media Days, just trying to get his sight lines down, just trying to. He likes to hit a draw off the tee and trying to figure out where he needed to start the ball if he wanted to keep hitting those draws.
Yeah, I would certainly agree with that. And, you get your sight lines down, but then it's execution, and out there it's at such a premium. I mean, there's that par 4 on the back or the second 9. That you tee off up high, and I can't remember the hole, but it had some sort of devil's elbow.
Oh, devil's elbow, yeah.
I mean, you look at this hole from way back, they're probably playing 470, and you have what looks to be like a hallway to hit it down between trees, and I believe there's water, a creek that runs down the left side. And, if you don't hit it far enough around the slight dog leg, you don't have a shot at the green. And I mean, that's what he's talking about. I mean, you got to pick your sight line, but then you have to be able to execute that shot. And, the combination of the two make it a very difficult golf course to play. I mean, you did the story about the golf course, and, I'm sure the course record has been since broken because, they had the Palmer Cup there, although that was a match play. I don't know if they recognize that, but wasn't it? I mean, the course record is something in the 70s.
Right.
That's
from the back. Yeah.
well, yeah. So it's a very, very hard golf course to play. So
another cool wrinkle about this year's tournament is, of course, a lot of the younger players are probably going to be at least keeping half an eye on the course for the purpose of the 2017 NCAA tournament, right?
well, certainly Gim and Hardy, who
Right.
both are entering their sophomore
Right.
years. It'll be when they're juniors.
I mean, I talked to John Fields, the coach at Texas. They're sending their staff out there, and Fields said he himself might come out to watch around because they want to see this place. I mean, they had a regional there, I believe, an NCAA regional, so a lot of people have seen it there. But it's not a course you see all the time, and they want to use this week to sort of get a thought on what will eventually be, a really important tournament.
And what did you, in your story too? I mean, Texas seems like they have their entire team out there
6 guys, I think, which is crazy. 6 guys in a 156-player field.
from one school.
I mean, and because you have Scheffler and Gim and Hostler, the 3 headliners.
They were all Sweet 16 guys
Right.
last year.
And they have a couple other guys. I think one of them. I'm gonna mess up the names. I'm not even gonna guess at them. But there's 3 other guys who are also there. Which I know I've said it a few times. Just that team is crazy. I mean it. And Fields and Gim both talked about how competitive.
Do we know
team
how
is.
many Georgia guys are there?
No one cares about that. Although I will let you say Lee McCoy coming back for his senior year for Georgia. We just saw him tweet right before we.
And he'll be at the PGA Tour Reno stop.
Yeah.
That you said, yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, he's getting a couple PGA starts this summer. I know he started at the U.S. Open after having never played in a PGA Tour event. I knew he was playing at least 2 more this summer. So good for him. But enough Georgia talk.
But I will say you'll miss it. One of my favorite parts about Western or WGA golf tournaments is the media room where you get to sit, at the table with Gary Holloway.
Oh, Gary Holloway, yes, a legend among golf media.
Yeah, certainly one of my favorite players. I like walking the golf course, but I always enjoy when I can get back into that media room and hear him spin
We are
tales.
officially putting out the request for Gary Holloway to appear on the podcast, hopefully before the BMW Championship, which again is another huge event for the Western Golf Association. So sometime between now and September, we got to get Gary on.
And his right-hand man these days is Patrick Donahue, and he's a fun guy to hang around too. It's one of my favorite.
Something about those Western Golf Association guys.
Yeah, it's just a fun.
If they're not giving you a bunch of money for college, they're just kind of generally nice guys.
It's just a fun group to play with. In fact, we played with one of the tournament guys when we played at Rich Harvest Farms with Nick and Steve.
He was a good player too.
Steve was a good player. Yeah, the 3 of us I would say are good players that had a really hard time playing that course.
Yeah, I mean our hubris was our downfall. With Nick. Sure, Nick, we'll play with you from the black tees. No, never again. Never forget.
But yeah, it's to say I always enjoy these Western Golf Association events just to spend some time with the staff there. It's always fun and listen to Gary's new conspiracy theories. One of them is players that wear any sort of black clothing,
black pants,
do not win
in 80-degree weather. I think it is or more. Will never win.
Which I immediately said is BS because Tiger Woods.
Well, I don't think Truth has anything. In fact, we confronted him with that. He said that's the exception that proves the rule. Tiger is. So.
Okay. All right.
So
if one guy's winning all the tournaments in black pants,
save it for the podcast with Gary. You can grill him on that we'll get to the bottom of it. But yeah, as you mentioned, I won't be at the Western Am. I can't be. I'm actually going on vacation. Going to do a golf trip in Arizona. I know that sounds crazy given that it's going to be early August, but when it gets to be 100 degrees, you're playing some courses that are pretty darn nice for right around the price point that I can handle, which is $50 or so per 18 holes. So,
well, why don't you tell people some of the courses you're going to play? Because I played one of them.
We're going to play. We're going to start off. We're going to fly in on Wednesday and play 18 holes. Just a local muni that is probably $35 and probably fairly burned out by this time of the year. But then we'll play at a course called Quintero which I love because I think it's northwest of, it's just outside of the Phoenix area, and I like that course because it was built in the middle of a housing development, and midway through the housing development, they stopped being able to build it. So now it's just an empty subdivision with big houses and a great golf course. So we play out there. 18. We'll play out at Troon, which has 36 holes. They have 36 holes out there, and we play out at Weekopah, which is the course that you've played, and you can vouch for that as being a pretty nice desert golf course.
Excellent golf course, and it's really fun. It's set. I want to say it's part of an Indian reservation. I think that's who owns it. Just awesome clubhouse, very cool vistas. The mountains are in the backdrop. I mean, you are in the desert. I think saguaro, as I said earlier, is a type of cactus. Mm-hmm. You see a lot of those. I mean, they're huge, and it's a great golf course. 36
holes a day for 3 days, so I'm gonna be golfed out after that. And the way I play, this is a different kind of golf in Arizona. There's a I'd say better than 50% chance I die of a rattlesnake bite trying to chase down one of my tee shots.
You'll definitely see some critters.
There's a good chance I'm not coming back, but you know what? It's worth it. We did this trip last year as well, and so we should mention then that the podcast is going to take a week off with me because with the Western Am starting and me hopping out of town on Wednesday, we just won't have time to record it and get it up
then
online.
We can come back, recap the Western Am. Kind of the U.S. Am will be right around the corner. In fact, the high school golf seasons will be getting going, so we'll have enough to talk about. Give us a little time to collect our thoughts. Do we want to pick winners for the Western Am?
Oh yeah,
we have enough.
We can pick winners for sure.
We have enough ammunition to make an educated guess.
There's just with so many players. I'm gonna go with DeChambeau. I'm picking DeChambeau. He's my guy.
I'm gonna pick Nick Hardy. I mean, I played with him.
You are such a suck up. Nick is a great player, but come on.
The guy made the cut at the U.S. Open.
You got 155 other players to choose from.
He's a semifinalist.
Go with the guy that you pick in every tournament.
He's a semifinalist last year at the Western Amateur. He helps Illinois to the Final Eight again at the NCAA championships. He makes the cut at the U.S. Open.
I'm not saying he's an untalented player. I'm just saying you're pandering. That's all.
I played with him. I watched him play that course, and he played it pretty darn well. Am I not right? He birdied the hole that the legend says a member. If you come there, it's a 480-yard par 4.
There's a par 4 out there
over water
where a member says. Now, we were told that a member tells every guest that he brings that if he can they can make a natural par, no handicap, natural par on that hole, he will buy them a set of irons.
Nick Hardy birdied it.
He stuffed it to about a foot. But you know what? That's the same hole that I saw his teammate Thomas Dietrich hole out for eagle on during the Palmer Cup. So it might not be as hard as some of those members make it out.
You think this guy just has a lot of extra set of irons?
Right. Well, we were told that he's never had to pay up on that bet. So, okay, well,
or
of course.
He just brings a bunch of crappy
I don't even know
players.
why you brought it up if you know you're going to pick Nick Hardy. So
you got to pick somebody. As you said, somebody's got to win.
Well, it's going to be Bryson DeChambeau, so. But, we'll see.
I'll tell you what. If
how about you pick a non-Illinois guy?
If you won't let me pick Nick Hardy or an Illinois guy, I mean, I'm going to say Hunter Stewart, who Vanderbilt guy who was SEC Player of the Year. He went 4-0 at the Palmer Cup. I watched him play. This guy's lights out player. I mean, I would probably guess that if he wanted to turn pro, he could probably start doing some playing pretty well.
I feel better about you making that pick, so we'll leave you with that one. But I think that should just about do us for today, don't you think?
Yeah, that was good. And once again, thanks to the Glenview Golf Club for having us out. Barry Cronin was an organizer of this as well. Rick Jacobson, thanks for your time. Had a great working day.
Another good location for podcast recording. So this makes we're episode 18 of the podcast, and probably just about that many spots that we've actually taped it. So If you want to follow Teeing Off Podcast, we'll try to, as always, get a little bit better, a little bit more present on Twitter. But Teeing Off is at @teeing__off. Matt, who sometimes tweets about PGA Championship events that happened a year or more ago, is at Harness Preps, and I'm at John_Borneman. Thanks for listening.
We need to be safe, God, please send us something. Damned if this ain't gonna change my mind about falling in love for another time. And it's all that I have to remember you by. But the end of the love's not the end of the line. If it's saccharine you want, is the sweetest straight tongue. I wish you were as sharp in